Ever been listening to your favorite podcast and think, hey, I want to start my own? Then you need Anchor. It's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First, everyone's favorite word, free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome back to the Bibliophile Hour. I am your host/cousin, Erica the Bibliophile, and we are here for day 24 of Read a Book, Record a Podcast. One more week and I will be done, where I read a book and I retell or review the book to you, adding my little sprinkle of input on what I think about the book. And we are here for part 3 of A Mayhem Love by Bianca, who I've mentioned before is one of my favorite authors. Let's get into it and see how all this drama unfolds. So a little recap from the last book is Zenobia brought Mayhem his cup and she put the quote-unquote love potion inside of it, and she raped him, and in the middle of her raping him, thinking that they're going to fall in love with each other because they drank this potion, Olena comes into the room and she tases both of them. And, then she ran out of there, but she sat in her car and she sees Trent and Malice holding Mayhem and Zenobia in their arms, and Cam calls her and tells her that she killed him. But then she calls her again and tells her, we're going to the hospital, meet us at the hospital. So let's start the book. And Olena instead goes on the highway because she knows that she thinks that Mayhem is dead, so she's running because she's going to have too many people after her. So she's like, I got to get out of town right now. And she drives until her car starts to jerk, and then she sees smoke coming from the hood. But she doesn't stop until the car actually stops on its own. And she probably could have made it further if she hadn't rammed into Zenobia's car. And now she's in the middle of nowhere with no one to call, because anybody she calls, they're gonna come get her and bring her back, and she's just so sure that the Baileys are gonna kill her. So she gets her purse, she goes into her trunk, and she's going to get clothes and shoes, but she sees that the hood of her car is on fire. So she takes off running as far as her little belly can carry her. And as soon as she makes it to the end of the road, she hears a boom. So, her car has completely collapsed or, set on fire, whatever. And, so she goes to her phone, and luckily it still has 15% on it, and she calls Noah, and he doesn't answer on the first ring as he normally does, so she calls him back to back 15 times before he answers. And so, she tells him, I need your help, and he says, where are you? Hold on tight, I'm on my way to get you. And then she gets a call from an unknown number, and it's Frank, and he's like, where you at? Send me your location. We need to rap. But she tells him, fuck you. Don't call my phone. As far as I'm concerned, your boy got what he deserved. And it's like, girl, what? Why would you say that? Frank is insane. But she's just trying to sound hard, knowing that she's scared, but she doesn't want to let off where she is. And Frank calls her a stupid bitch, tells her, I can't wait to get my hands around your throat. I'm going to make you feel everything, and you're going to be laid right next to my partner. And, he's still going off, but she hangs up the phone and starts to cry. So, it's already started that Mayhem's homeboys are after her, and she doesn't know what to do. So Noah pulls up, and he helps her into his car. And, she's crying, saying, Frank is going to kill me. And Noah's like, no, he's not. He has to find you first. So give me your phone. He drops it and steps on it and leaves it on the bench that he picked her up from. And he takes her to a cabin that his family has that his grandparents gave to his parents. And at first, she asks if she could stay at his place, but he's like, Mayhem has already been to my place, so we can't do that. And, he tells her about the little visit that Mayhem paid him, but, he told him not to say anything. I'm like, so why are you saying something now? Just say, no, you can't stay at my place. So he takes her to the cabin, tells her she can't have a phone and she can't contact anybody. And he'll have to come back and take her to the city so she can use payphones for only seconds at a time. And she starts rubbing her belly like, my babies. How am I going to be able to check on my babies? And he's like, we just got to focus on right now. We can't focus on anything else. And the cabin is in Rockford, so that's 2 hours away from Chicago. And it's not until he tells her, I have to go, that she realizes that she's there by herself. He's not going to be staying with her because he's like, it's going to look suspicious if we both disappear at the same time. So, I can't stay here with you. And so then she thinks about her house, like, oh, I can't lose my house. How am I going to pay for it? And he offers to pay for the next 3 months, not the first, the next 3 months. And then after that, they'll have to figure something out. And I'm like, y'all already planning 3 months in advance of her staying in this cabin? And he's told her, my brother randomly comes up here when he wants to get away. So I'm like, how are y'all planning to pay for 3 months? And you don't know if the brother gonna pop up at any time. Speaking of which, the brother calls him and says, where you at? And have you heard from Mayhem's girl, because there's a bounty out on her head for $750,000. They want her back alive. So, let me know if you hear from her because we could be rich. And he has to play it off like, yeah, bet. As soon as I hear from her, we're going to get this money. But of course, when he hangs up, he tells her, I'm not really going to turn you in. So don't worry about it. You just have to stay low. And she apologizes and tells him, I can't get you killed. So basically, she's deciding not to go through with this. And she's like, you don't know Mayhem's posse. They're not going to stop looking for me. And he says, if I gave a fuck about his posse, I wouldn't have came and got you. I know what I signed up for. Don't worry. We're going to keep you safe. And like I said, he tells her he'll be back in a few days. So we're going 45 minutes back before Olena showed up, where Mayhem is watching her and Noah on a hidden camera that he hid in Noah's house. Just watching them interact, and, they're just talking and laughing and actually being friends. So for a moment, Mayhem felt bad about installing the hidden camera. So he's just listening to the conversation. But if Zenobia hadn't showed up when she did, he would have heard her story about how she lost her virginity in the back of a car for $200. Like the story she told Noah about Felton Moses and what she went through. But because Zenobia showed up with his cup with the love potion in it, he had to close his computer and he missed out on that part of the story. So it's just like, you get the experience the moment through his eyes. He felt everything in slow motion. He did not want Zenobia on top of him. He wasn't aroused for her, but because of the drugs in his system, he got aroused. And her climbing on top of him, and he wanted to push her off, but he couldn't. And then seeing his girlfriend come in crying, being hurt by his actions. So while his brother was carrying him, to the hospital and crying over his body, he feels like he's sick of living because he's tired of hurting Olena over and over again, even though he is a victim in this situation and it wasn't his fault. It's like they were in such a good place, and then here Zenobia goes. Excuse me. So Noah makes it back from Rockford and he's pulling into his home, and he goes to Kelsey's house. And oh, nope. I'm ahead of myself. I'm sorry. It's his house, and Frank is waiting for him at his house. Sorry, because reading the book, I get situations mixed up, so I do apologize. And Frank is sitting there with a gun, and he's like, why I'm here. And he tries to play it off like, no, I have cash in the safe if you want it. He's like, man, I don't want that damn money. Where's Olena? I know you know. So think before you speak, because I know she called you a few hours ago. Like, Frank has all the intel. You can't get nothing past him. But Noah says she did, but I was on a date. I picked up and told her that I would call her back, but I never got around to it because I was on a date with my girl. I just came back from her house. Oh, really? Well, call her. Call Kelsey right now. So he calls her, and he tries to lead the conversation, but Frank grabs the phone and puts it on mute and says, don't lead her. Just talk how you would regularly talk. So she covers for him, and Noah basically tells Frank, like, see, I told you I don't know where she is. But Frank tells her, if I find out that you're lying, I'm going to kill your whole family in front of you. I'll leave you alive to live with the fact that you are the reason why your whole family is killed. So do you want to rethink about your decision? But he goes back to Kelsey's house because, on the phone, she was telling him, oh, I wish you would have stayed. We could have did this and this. So he says that he's coming back over. And although he didn't want to, because he's like drained from the night's events, he didn't know if somebody was watching him or not. So he went back over anyway, and he lost his virginity that night. And so for the last 2 days, they've just been getting it on like rabbits. And she calls him and says, can I ask you a question? I just want to know if we're going to move forward or if we're just going to keep being friends with benefits. Because, we got to put a title on this. I'm just not going to keep having sex with you, and I don't get anything out of it. And so then he goes to see his dad, and his dad asks him, are you helping this girl hide? If so, you are in a lot of trouble with the police, the Baileys, and whoever this girl has pissed off. So he's basically also trying to get him to give up Olena's location. But, Noah is holding it down. He's like, I didn't even know she was missing until Noel called me and said that people were looking for her. Why does everybody assume that she's with me? And he tells him, if I knew where she was, why would I tell you? Why you of all people? Are you connected to the Bailey somehow? And his dad, who is a pastor, who is a.k.a. Felton Moses, that we found out in the last book with his nasty ass. And he's looking at his dad like, do you know her or something? Because I didn't miss the way you were gritting your teeth when you looked at her. Like when they walked into his house while she was helping him getting ready for his date. And they both were very rude to Olena. And he's like, no, excuse me. I know her from cursing me out one day. And it's like, you got that kind of animosity for somebody who just cussed you out? Okay, whatever. So he goes, Noah leaves, and he goes back to the cabin where Olena is. And she was going to try to set him on fire because she had a can of hairspray and a lighter. So, if you press down on the button and let the hairspray come out and you light it, that's going to go very far. And basically, she was about to light his ass up. But he moves in time, and he's like, what are you doing? And she says, it's a different car than what he came and got her in. So she thought it could have been Frank or any one of Mayhem's guys that he has working for him. And he asks her if she's been watching the news, and she says, no, I haven't been out of bed, since you left. I just peeked through the blinds when you pulled up. And so she hasn't eaten anything in the last 2 days. So he makes her something to eat. And, they just sit down and talk. And she asks him, so what have you been doing for these last 2 days? And he tells her about Casey and how they're having sex. And she's asking him all type of questions. And, they're just having, in the circumstance of what's going on, they're just having a nice quiet evening with each other. And he's thinking Olena is a really funny girl. And whenever he got a girlfriend, he would want a girl to be just like her. So it's just like, yeah, you want to be more than friends, nigga. And, excuse me, while Mayhem is in the hospital, he's having that moment where, your life flashes before your eyes and you just see everything that you've done in your life. And after that's over, then he gets another little vision where Olena is in the kitchen holding a baby boy, and they're looking at a picture on the refrigerator. And when they move out the way, there were 4 children sitting on a bench, 2 big children and 2 small children. And then everything becomes a blur. He can't see clearly who it is. And so a man comes into the kitchen and takes the boy out of Olena's arms. But then the vision goes away and he can't see who it is. And so that's when his eyes jerk open. And this is when the nurses and doctors were, whatever that machine is, where, they go, Claire, and they revive him. And he had flatlined twice. So, he died twice before they finally got him alive and staying alive. But he wakes up saying, my wife, where's my wife? So he's trying to get out of the bed, but the doctors are trying to hold him down at the same time. So it's a struggle, and he's fighting against them get off me. I need to go find my wife. But they managed to sedate him, and, he calms down and then falls asleep. And while he's starting to wake up, he hears the doctor's voice, and the doctor is telling his parents, I can't even pronounce this drug, but the drug that killed Michael Jackson, RIP to the legend, that's what they found in his system, along with an unknown substance, that the toxicology report didn't pick up. So he's asking, has he traveled out of the country lately? And Mrs. Bailey tells him, yeah, he recently went to Haiti, but my son doesn't do drugs, so what are you implying? And he's like, we're not implying anything. We're just letting you know what we found in his system. And then they ask what happened before he was brought in. And after they tell the story, actually the shock of the taser is what saved his life instead of what killed him. And so Mayhem slowly opens his eyes and he tries to sit up, but he can't. But because he acted a fool the last time, they strapped him down to the bed. And he's still trying to get up again, saying, I need to go find my wife. I need to let her know that this was a mistake and I was not in control of my body. And his mom tries to talk to him, but he looks at her and says, this is all your fault anyway. Everything, all of it. I don't even know why you're here. Get out. And she's still trying to talk, but he's like, with all due respect, I don't want your apologies. I really want you to leave. And so she leaves out crying, and Malice comes in and is like, what did you say to mom? She's out there crying. I had to stop dad from coming in here and beating your ass, basically. He's like, man, you tripping. And he's like, I'm in this situation because of your mom. Had I put out Zenobia when I wanted to from the very beginning, I wouldn't be in this particular predicament now. And he tries to tell his brothers, let me out of these straps. I need to get to Olena. And Malice ain't hearing it. He's like, are you out of your mind? She's the reason why you died twice. I'd be a fool to let you contact her. Plus, she's dead anyway. Her car went up in flames. And it's like, did you really just tell your brother that his girlfriend and the mother of his children just died like that? Like, he would be happy about it? And Malice is like, yeah, that bitch dead anyway. Fuck her. So the machines that are hooked up to Mayhem start going haywire, and he has a seizure. And the doctor asks Malice, like, what happened? What did you say? I said that his baby mama was dead, but of course the doctor is on my side. Like, why would you tell him something like that? His body is under stress already, and telling him that the mother of his children is dead sent him into an emotional seizure. And the doctor says, now we have to worry about you seizing every time you think of her, on top of trying to find out what the other drug is in your system. And they're also trying to flush out that other drug out of his system. But then Mayhem, falls back out and he's not listening anymore. So when Zenobia wakes up, the doctor tells her, your nose is broken in so many places and you have to have reconstructive surgery if I can get my words together. But they can't do that because she has the unknown drugs in her system. So they have to wait till it's flushed out before she can even have her surgery, because her face is in a lot of pain from where Olena kicked her ass, which she well deserved. And, now that she's awake, she has to answer questions about the drugs that were found in both of their systems. And the doctor asks, are you ready to tell us how you got a drug that you can only receive in hospitals, and y'all weren't at the hospital when y'all took them? And, having that drug, whatever the drug is a federal offense, and she can and will receive jail time. And she tells the doctor, I would much rather receive jail time than deal with the Baileys. And then she tells him how it was supposed to be a love potion, and she bought it in Haiti, and she didn't know that it would hurt them. And it's just like, girl, but you a nurse. But anyway, so she's asking for her kids, and the doctor says, I'll let them in. And when she hears the door open, she's expecting to hear her kid's voice, but it's actually Mama Bailey standing there with a gun in her hand. And she walks towards her and tells her, nothing would make me feel better than to see your brain matter splattered on the wall behind you. And she puts the gun up under her chin. Click. Nothing happens. I forced my son to give you $1 million. $1 whole $1 million that your son could have in a life-altering surgery. Click. And nothing happens. Click. And she starts to scream. Well, she lets out a low scream. And she pees on herself. And Mama Bailey tells her, now is not your time to talk. I could have possibly lost a very good relationship with my son because of you. Click. Click. So it's just like basically Russian roulette. It's like, there's a bullet in here. How many times can she pull it before anything happens? And Zenobia pleads, Mrs. Bailey, please don't kill me. I have kids. You have kids. So do I. And that is the only reason why I made my son give you the money. I have lost a child before, and I wouldn't wish the pain of losing a child on anyone. And the way you repay me, the woman who essentially saved your son's life, is by drugging and raping my son. Click. And then the door opens and you hear Ankara's and Marcus's voice, and Mrs. Bailey pulls the gun one more time, click, and nothing happens. So, basically there's no bullets in the gun. She just wanted to scare her and warn her. And she leans down to whisper in her ear, my husband didn't want me to come in here with a loaded clip. And as you can see, he is very much correct, because had I had a full clip, I would have emptied it right into your chin. Karma is a bitch, and once my real daughter-in-law drops those twins, she's coming for you. And so then she leaves out. So Ankara asks her, Mom, did you really drug my father and yourself and call it a love potion? You're a nurse, so I know that this story is fabricated, because there is no way a nurse would take something that has no label on it. And then Marcus tells her, I know he calls him Mr. Bailey. I know he's not my real dad, but he calls me his son. He plays games with me. He talks to me, and I want to be like him when I grow up. Will he still want to be my dad after this? And for some reason, her grown ass catches an attitude with her kids and says, are you kidding me? You haven't seen Mayhem in 8 years, and you think he is a great guy, but he's not. And Marcus, you want to be like him? You want to be a killer, huh? Because that's what Mr. Bailey is. A killer. You want to be a killer? And she goes back to Ankara and says, if your dad really wanted you, he would have never left you in the first place. He wouldn't have gone 8 years without seeing you. It wouldn't have had to take me coming and begging him for money to help your brother out. So if you think for 1 second that your dad is a good guy, you are far from right. And, they call her and they're like, Mom, what? I know he a killer because he killed your real father in front of me. And it's like, bitch, are you serious right now? Like, you real life catching attitudes with children who are having children's emotions. You are an adult. Pull yourself together. I cheated on Mayhem with this guy named Eric, and he caught us and killed us. Still think he's a good guy? Still want to be like him? And this is when she already said it, but she tells him that Santana is not his real dad. And then she, like, when it's dead silent, she realized what a mistake she's made. And she wants to apologize, but it's like, you can't apologize for that. But anyway, 2 detectives walk in the door, and they handcuff her to the bed and tell her that she's under arrest for contempt of court in Arizona and the kidnapping of Marcus Casey. And then somebody else comes in after she's been Mirandized, and they're social services. So they're going to take the children and put them in custody of Santana until all of this is figured out. So it's just like everything is falling apart right before her eyes. So Olena has been on the run for a week, and she tells Noah, I want to call my sister and I want to call my friend. So they plan on going to 2 different payphones in the city, and she calls Taiwan first and says, I love you. And before Taiwan can even respond, Noah hangs up the phone. So they travel to another payphone, and she calls her sister Olivia, and she asks, she's like, Lee, where are you? And she says, I can't. Tell my nephew I love him more than anything in this whole world. And Trent is listening, so he calls out Olena's name in the background, but Trent once again hangs up the phone. And, she's very sad. And when they get back to the cabin, she just gets into bed. Excuse me. And he apologizes, Noah. He's like, I'm so sorry. I wish that there was more I could do for you. I wish he hadn't cheated on you so you wouldn't be in this situation. I really hate that you are sad. You being sad makes me sad. And he starts rubbing on her stomach. And she says, while you're doing this, do you want to rub oil on my stomach? And this is where I start to feel away, because I'm just like, girl, no, why are you offering for him to do that? But he says, sure, I'll do anything for you. It's just like, nigga, you are the reason why they say that men and women can't be friends, because you're not trying to be a friend. But anyway, while he's doing that, he asks her a question and says, I don't want to dirty Mac or even seem like I am, but what do you see in Mayhem? Was it his swagger because he's a drug dealer? I know most women like street men. And Olena tells him Mayhem was a lover, a really good lover. He was rough around the edges, but once you got to know him, he was funny and sweet. He loved hard and had a very strange way of showing it, but I didn't doubt that he loved me. It's just that Zenobia came back and got her claws in him. She was his first love, and you never truly get over them, I guess. So it's been a week for Mayhem too, and he's still in the hospital and he's still strapped down to the bed, and he's been acting a fool while he's been in this hospital. So the doctor ain't been letting him have any visits and no television, because anytime the news said something about Olena missing and showing the video of her car going up in flames, he would have a seizure. So he's just been basically by himself for a week. But he was relieved to find out that Malice wasn't serious about having Olena killed. But Frank does, have their goons out looking for her. So he appreciates that. But he told Malice, keep it on the low that he's still alive. He doesn't want all of them rushing out to the hospital to see him. And he just wants to continue to let everybody think he's dead till he gets out of the hospital. So he's talking to the doctor, and the doctor is asking him, how he's doing. He's really not talking to him. And he lets him know, to be honest, your girlfriend, but Mayhem is intent on everybody calling Olena his wife. And this is when he tells him, your wife catching you with another woman actually saved your life. Because if she hadn't tased him, he was already being paralyzed from the legs down. So actually the taser is, what kept him alive, because he couldn't feel anything else. So he asks where his kids are, and the doctor has to inform him that they've been taken, and Zenobia is under arrest. And he's like, taken by whom? And he has to tell the state. They're back in Arizona. And, she's been given a clean bill of health, so they shipped her back, and the kids were taken and placed in custody of her husband. So he has to calm himself down, because it's just like, I don't know that nigga, and I don't know what he doing to my kids. So he asks, when is he getting out of here? But it's on the condition that he takes seizure medication, and Mayhem refused. He says, unstrap me, discharge me, tell me when I need to come see you again, and in that order. When you put that medication in your body, you end up having more shit wrong with you than when you started. And that is so true. If I start taking it, that means I have to keep taking it for the rest of my life. I won't do that to myself. So the most I'll do is take in Tylenol or an Advil for a headache, but that's it. And the doctor is like frustrated, but just like, nigga, what you gonna do? You can't force him to take it. But 30 minutes later, he comes back with Mayhem's parents and his brother. And he's like, I don't know why they here. Just tell me that you got my discharge papers. And then he tells Malice, let me borrow your phone so I can call Cam to come pick me up. If you're not going to do it, then I'll use the phone at the front desk. I don't want to be bothered with nothing or nobody right now. I want to get my things from your house and go to my own house. That's it. Nobody else say anything else to me. And he's like, bro, you died twice. You don't think... And Mayhem was like, I just told you what I think. I just told you I didn't want to hear nothing else about nothing. I don't think I can make myself any more clear. And, they're just trying to get him to understand, like the doctor said. I don't care what the doctor said. And then he turns to the doctor and he says, the next thing that's going to happen is me killing you with that needle that you're about to try and shove into my arm right now. I know that you have it behind your back. And so the doctor tries to raise his arm anyway, getting ready to stick Mayhem with it. But Malice grabs his wrist and twists it to make him drop it and says, he's not joking. Let him go. We'll deal with him at home. And the doctor is looking at him like, man, are y'all crazy? He needs to be here. But then Mama Bailey is yelling at the doctor, discharge him now. And Mayhem, like, she thinking that's going to make me rock with her, but I'm cool on her right now. Like, I meant what I said. She ruined my life for the moment, and he's not going to be mad at her forever, but, those are just his feelings right now, which it's not logical, but I can understand the sentiment. It's just like, I told you to let that bitch go on her merry little way. Like, okay, unfortunately, the little boy would have died, but, man, fuck them kids. And that's not my problem. That's her problem. I don't owe her nothing. I don't care that I killed her, the baby daddy. I don't care. That's not my fault. Like, bitch, I loved you. I was coming home prepared to propose to you, and I find you cheating with the next nigga. I'm like, you lucky I didn't kill you. Should have killed you, too. Give a damn that I killed that boy daddy. But anyway, Mama Bailey is still trying to talk to him, but he ain't giving her no type of play. He's like, this is all your fault. Everything. I ain't messing with you like that right now. And she starts crying again, but he just gets his things and goes to his car. Malice comes out and says, this is your second time making mom cry. What's your deal? But Mayhem just waves him off and, he leaves. He goes to Frank's house and he has a key to Frank's house, so he just lets himself in, which, no. Like, you don't know what I'm doing up in my... That's why well, my friends are far away and I don't live by myself anyway, but I just got a feeling if I did, nobody is going to have extra keys to my house because you don't know what I'm doing and you just walk in. But anyway, Frank wasn't doing anything but talking to his girlfriend in their bedroom, but he is crying. He's really upset because he thought his best friend his brother was dead. And ain't nobody found Olena. And, you know, he's been calling morgues, hospitals, and can't nobody tell him anything about Mayhem. Ain't no funeral arrangements been made, and Malice not even answering his phone. Mama and Papa Bailey ain't answering their phone either. And he says, them goddamn Baileys not gonna be satisfied until they burying me next to my brother. And this surprises Mayhem because, you know, like, they're brothers, they're cool, they're best friends, but Frank don't show emotion like that. So to know that he's really torn up at the possibility of him being dead touches him, but because they're men, it's enough of this mushy shit. And he comes from around the corner into the bedroom. And Frank gets up to give him a hug. So Mayhem explains to Frank, you know, everything that happened. And Frank asks, so basically she's on the run for nothing. Just put it out that you're alive and all will be well. I can put the bounty on Nobi's head instead. And Mayhem says, oh no, I got something special planned for her, but I got to get my kids back before I do anything. So they're on their way to... Nope, jumping ahead, sorry. His mom texts him, you know, apologizing and telling him, you know, please don't be mad at me. Let me know what I have to do to make this right. I love you more than anything in the world. But he still ain't messing with his mom right now, so he just deletes the text and move on. It's 2 days later where he goes to Olena's doctor and he runs into Noah and says, you know, why are you at my baby mom's doctor? Do you know where she is? But Noah says no, and, you know, he keeps it moving, or attempts to, but Mayhem reminds him, like, I don't have to remind you of what I said when if I get my words together. I don't have to remind you about what I said would happen if I have to visit you again, right? So Noah shakes his head no, and he leaves. So then Mayhem goes into the doctor's office and, you know, asks her, where is the mother of my children? I know you know because y'all are close and you're her doctor. So please tell me where the mother of my child is. I'm really missing her and I'm physically and mentally sick without her. So the doctor says she doesn't know where she is either. And Frank pulls out his gun and he basically ready to start shooting. But Mayhem says no. Because if she does know where she is, she can lead us to her. So don't do anything to her. And Mayhem goes home and lays down because, you know, he has to deal with the case with Zenobia and Kara and Marcus. And then he also is still trying to find his woman and his baby. So it's just like I said in the beginning, what started out as so good is turning into shit. So Zenobia is being held on avoiding a process server and for the charges of kidnapping of her own son. And she's meeting with her lawyer, who's just basically running down the case to her. But her lawyer is her friend's Paris' boyfriend. So when she goes outside and she's standing on the sidewalk after talking to the lawyer, Harry, she notices that Paris is sitting in his car. And she goes over and knocks on the window, but Paris doesn't let the window down, and she acts as if she doesn't even see her. So she's like, oh, it's like that? Paris let the window down and said, hell yeah, it's like that. I was arrested for being an accomplice to kidnapping. My nursing license is gone unless I can prove that I had absolutely nothing to do with you kidnapping your kid. Can I prove that I was not involved? No, I can't. So guess what? I'll never be able to be a nurse again. My dreams of being a doctor are gone. Your dumbass needs to be glad I'm even still letting my boyfriend be your lawyer. I told you to leave well enough alone. Now look at you. That guy has a pregnant girlfriend and 2 kids. And she's gone and nobody can find her. What if she killed herself or something? She damn near killed the both of y'all. We both lost our license. You don't have a man or your kids. You lost everything that you worked so hard for what? What even possessed you to buy something that you don't even know what it is? You know what? Never mind. You think you got all the answers anyway. I don't want to see you again. Now get away from this car. And she tries to open the door to fight her friend, but it's like, what are you trying to fight her for? She's right. She basically put herself on the line to help you, even though she told you not to do what you did and you did it anyway. And you expect her to just still be in your corner? That's not what no. No. I'm like, I lost my license. I wanted to be a doctor. I can't even do that now for trying to help you out. So yeah, I was your friend, but now you are no longer mine. And Harry tells her, tomorrow they have a meeting with Santana and his lawyer, and she just needs to show up and let him do all the talking. But she texts Mayhem and tells him, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. I want you to know that I'm truly sorry for what I did to you. I want you to know that Ankara is now in the hands of Santana and it's all my fault. I have a court date tomorrow to see what's going on. So even though she's not expecting the text back, Mayhem does text her back and says, keep me updated, boo. I pray that you get our kids back in your custody. Whatever you need from me, I'll do it. I miss them already. Once everything is situated, make sure you bring your ass back to Chicago. And I don't know if she's thinking that the potion worked or what, but she texts him, like, why are you being so nice? Olena shocked the meanness out of you. And it's like, bitch, I know if I was on the other side of that phone, I'd be like, oh, I could fly to Arizona right now and just shoot your ass. But he says, I've always been nice, and you know that. I guess life is too short to harbor any hate for you. I'm pissed that you damn near killed me, but I guess it took that to realize you are who I want to be with. She should have known something right there. It's like, girl, I just keep going back to her saying she knows him better than anybody. So why are you not picking up on the fact that, Molly, you are in danger, girl? But anyway, he continues and says, I'm in the process of finding Olena, and if she's still pregnant, I'm going to petition for full custody when she has the kids, and all of us can be one big happy family. She's done with it with me anyway. Ugh, if I can get my words together. And it's like, so you happy with being the second choice, but she is. She just wants a man. I don't think she cares whose it is. And so she tells him, I'll spend an eternity making it up to you. I love you more than anything in this world. I can't wait to get this situated so we can finally be a complete family. That's the best news I've gotten all year. You're the best man in the world. It's like, girl, ugh. Anyway, so the next day at the meeting, she's just ready to get it over with. And when Santana comes in with his lawyer, nobody notices that Harry keeps calling Santana's lawyer, like, he got like 4-5 nicknames for this woman. Her name is Rebecca. He calls her Becca, and then it's shortened to Beck. And he notices like the looks that they're exchanging with each other. I mean, she is. So she noticed that these two lawyers are fucking. So it's just like, wow, my friend's boyfriend is really cheating on her. But she just got to sit through the meeting like she ain't peeped nothing. But Santana wants to go to marriage counseling, but Zenobia ain't trying to hear that. But he says he'll drop all the charges if she agrees to work things out with him. And Zenobia says, I'm not interested in being his beard, because that's basically what she would be. But he says, I'm not gay. I told you I was being raped, so stop playing with me. And she says, I'm a nurse, and I know the signs of a rape victim, and you are not one. And she says, you know what? Let's take this to court. And he says, you were a nurse. You go to court, and you know what will be mentioned? The fact that you tried to poison Mayhem, and he almost died of it. You almost died because of his baby mama coming in and catching you raping him. So it's just like, I don't know why she didn't think that they knew about that, but they did know. So it's just like, if you try to take this to court and try to fight him and say, he can't have the kids because of this. And that's her thing. She's basically saying he don't want them kids anyway. He's just doing it to hurt her. But say if he did want the kids, her only reason is because he's gay. Not anything else. It's just because he's gay. And she keeps saying that. But anyway, after the meeting is over, because it's basically going in Santana's favor, she just has to do what he says. She texts Mayhem and says, it went bad. He wants to stay married and go to counseling. He keeps claiming he was raped. If I go back home, he'll drop the charges. What do I need to do? And it's like, why are you asking him that? You a grown woman. You don't know what to do for the sake of your kids? Somebody need to take them kids away from you anyway. So Mayhem tells her, you have to do what you have to do for a little minute so you can be around the kids and making sure he ain't doing anything. You keep doing what you do and I'll take care of things. So she's smiling, thinking that this is all going to work out in the end, and Mayhem just has this big old plan to come and save her. So she actually goes home, and Santana welcomes her home, saying, "Welcome home, wife." It's disgusting. So it's not been a month since Olena has been away from Chicago, and, she's missing her family, she's missing Mayhem, mourning her lover. But Noah has convinced the doctor to come to Rockford to a small clinic and do her ultrasound. So, and there's a code on the house door. So, once he leaves, she can't leave the house. And he said he's not going to give her the code because he doesn't trust her to go outside and not be caught by someone. And so she walks in the kitchen that morning and she's noticing how good he's looking. And I think it's just the fact that she's been without somebody for a month, because otherwise she wasn't looking at Noah like that. She was just looking at him as a friend. So she asks him, after my appointment, can I call my sister in Taiwan again? And he says, I'll think about it, babe. Shit is getting real hot in Chicago. And it's like, nigga, shit ain't getting hot nowhere. You lying. And she says, I want to read his obituary, so can you get me a newspaper? And he tells her, no. How are you ever going to get over him if you want to be reminded of him? You have to let him go. And I'm just like, Olena, I don't understand why this wasn't clicking for you then, sis. I'm like, you trying to be just a little bit controlling instead of helping. Because that's what he's trying to disguise it as. Like, I'm just trying to help. Like, no, you're being controlling. And I see it. And she tells him, I'll never be able to let him go, Noah. That was my soulmate. How was he your soulmate and he cheated on you? And it's just like, okay, so now you trying to fight, bitch, because you playing dirty. But he quickly apologizes and says, I feel like you're in a good place now, and I don't want you to revert back to that depressed state that you were in. And he asks for her forgiveness, and she agrees, and then he kisses her. She pushes him back, but then he comes back again and kisses her again. And she starts to kiss him back, but then she pushes him back again and tells him, the kiss was nice, but I'm still in love with Mayhem. And he tells her, I'll be whatever you need me to be for you and the twins. I'm here. Me, you, and the twins are going to be just fine. I can promise you that. And it's like, nigga, but what about Kelsey? But he tells her, if you want to try and work on this on us, I'll drop her. I promise you that. It's like, nigga, you done had that in your plans all along. You think you being slick and you ain't. So at the appointment, Noah steps out. So it's just Olena and Dr. G. And she tells him, you have to believe me when I say I didn't mean to kill Mayhem. And the doctor is looking at her like, what are you talking about? Mayhem is... And then Noah comes in and says, is everything okay in here? Are you ready for me to come back in? Because he stepped out for her to get undressed and put, the gown on and whatever. And he cuts into the conversation and says, we don't want her out longer than normal. So can we speed this up? And also, can you keep the chatter about him to a minimum? Because every time she speaks on him, she gets upset. And that is not good for the twins. We need her healthy so she can deliver a healthy baby. So after she's all checked out, she asks to speak to Noah outside, and they talk for a minute and then come back in, and she's like, what's going on? What are y'all keeping from me? And he just says nothing, and they leave. And in the car, this fool tells her, I'm taking you somewhere else. I'm going to move you to Kentucky. And she's like, Kentucky? I'm not going to Kentucky. I'm mad enough. I got to spend 2 hours away from my family. And you just going to tell me what I'm going to do? And she says, I'd much rather just go back to Chicago and deal with what I got coming my way. And he says, no. You'll be able to be out and about in Kentucky. And, you won't have to be cooped up in the house, and it's only 7 hours away. And Olena says, no, I'm not moving to Kentucky, so you can stop at a payphone and let me call my sister and my friend. And he says, no, we have to get home to pack because I will be driving you to Kentucky. And she tells him, I will run away before I let you. And it's just like, you're not even running away. You can just simply leave. He doesn't control you. He can't stop you. And he grabs her wrist and she snatches away and punches him in the face twice. And he swerves the car. And then when he gets the car under control, the police are pulling up behind him. And, they play it off for the cops like it was just a little misunderstanding. And he checks his license and registration and walk away. And if I was her, I'd be like, can you please take me back to Chicago? I'm being held against my will because this nigga think I'm playing and I'm not. So the conversation that Noah and the doctor had outside of the room was her asking, why does she believe that Mayhem is dead and not alive? And he tells her, I want to tell her on my own terms that he's still alive. And if the doctor tells him, then she'll tell Mayhem that she knew all along where Olena was and she's going to get killed anyway. So Dr. G agrees not to say anything. And he just wants her to be fully over Mayhem before she tells him that, Mayhem is still alive. And he knows that she's weak for him because she still cries for him every night. He watches her on cameras that are set up in the house, and I find that so creepy. It's like, nigga, gross. And so he's back in Chicago and he stops by Kelsey's house, and when he comes in, he sees that her head is not connected to her body. Mayhem and Frank are there, and they have decapitated dear old Kelsey. And before she died, it's not funny, but it is funny. Because he threw up, at the fact seeing her head decapitated from her body. But Frank then threw the head at him and told him to catch. And it's I'm sorry, there's something wrong with me. But Mayhem is there to ask, where is my baby mama? So he's still acting like he doesn't know. And Mayhem tells him, people, before they get ready to die, they start telling the truth. So before Kelsey died, she told them that he had her lie on a phone call when she called him. So it's like when Frank was there, it was like, call Kelsey right now. And the same night that she called, he was with his baby mama. And that's the night that Olena went missing and her phone was smashed to pieces. So he continues to act as if he doesn't know what Mayhem is talking about. So Frank beats his ass. And he beats his ass to the point Noah doesn't wake up until a week later in the hospital. And both of his jaws are fractured, so his mouth has had to be wired. His right arm is broken, and 6 of his ribs were cracked. His right arm will be in a cast for 6 weeks, and, his ribs have to heal on his own. So he just asked for some medication and to leave. And the same doctor that took care of Mayhem is now taking care of Noah. So he says, why does no one want to stay in my care? And I found that hilarious. I'm like, so you must be a terrible doctor because all your patients like, okay, write me a little prescription and let me on up out of here. So his mom asks, who did this to you? I bet it has something to do with that girl. The girl that went missing. And he's still not saying anything, so he gets his discharge papers and he ups and leaves. Mayhem is, looking at the calendar, and it's been almost 2 months since he's seen Olena, and he's basically going out of his mind. And he's thinking about, what they did to Noah, and he still didn't say that he knew where she was. So it leads him to believe that he's either really telling the truth or he loved Olena enough to die for her, which, of course, we can't have that. And so he's sitting at home, and Taiwan and Frank are arguing because she asks him, why do you have a bounty on my friend's head? And Mayhem's like, man, I told you to call off that bounty. And he says, man, first of all, fuck you, Taiwan. And then second of all, fuck you, Mayhem. That bounty is what's going to bring my sister home to us quicker. You need to worry about why you playing games with that Zenobia bitch and go ahead and let me pop her ass. And Taiwan's like, oh, now she your sister. She wasn't your sister when you was calling her all type of bitches and hoes. And Frank is like, man, I said that when I was upset and I thought she killed my brother. Don't hold that against me. You know that's my sister. It's like, nigga, you so fake. So Zenobia and Santana are supposed to be going to marriage counseling. And on their way there, they're having this conversation where, once again, Zenobia calls him gay. And he pulls over to the side of the road and they have a conversation. Side note, it's this conversation about him being gay and then him owning his masters. I really don't want to get into that, but I do just want to say shout out to Bianca. I love how she always shouts out her friends or a book that she likes in her book. So it's just like, as soon as you're done reading her book, I usually go and I highlight the book that she shouted out and I'll go read it later. So I like that she shouts out her people. But anyway, Santana tells her the story of how it started with the guy that he's been getting raped by. Because although she doesn't believe it to be rape, it started out as rape. So I don't believe it can ever be consensual after that. Even if he does get hard now and, he's moaning and groaning, he was forced and he's been being forced. But anyway, he says it started 2 years ago. Around the time that Zenobia had stopped giving him money to go to the studio, because it's like, okay, you've been doing it since I met you and it ain't going nowhere and I'm funding it. Like, nigga, I'm not giving you no more money either. But so he tried to tell the guy that he would pay him back, but that's when he pulled out the gun and told him to get on his knees, and he had no choice. He didn't want to get shot. He couldn't ask her what she would have done in that situation, because a lot of people say, oh, if that was me, I would have did that, until they're really forced to be in that situation. So, and before that, people were telling him, not to mess with the Branson guy because he was shady, and that's all they said. They didn't give any real reason because nobody wanted to talk about what he was forcing them to do. So it's just like, okay, y'all just saying he's shady, but ain't nobody giving me no real explanation. And so Zenobia asked him, why didn't you just tell me? What would you have done? What would you have said if I came home and told you I was being raped by a nigga for some studio time? It was hard enough on me that I wasn't helping you the way a man should help you. I wanted to tell you so many times, but I didn't want to see the look on your face that you have now. I had brought a gun and everything because once I finished my mixtape, I was going to kill him. You just don't know. Thankfully, I didn't have to do that. To keep me from pressing charges on him, he gave me my master's. So now I'm independent, making more money than I have in a long time. And I have a therapist, helping me work through this trauma. You have all this newfound money, but at what cost? Your manhood? And it's like, why is it costing him his manhood? Being gay does not strip away your manhood. But hey, homophobic. What can we do? Homophobia. And Santana says, all I'm asking you to do is try. You're not even trying. You're so stuck on Mayhem and you just don't know how foolish and stupid you look. Which, can I get an amen? Like, Santana, I don't like you too much either, but you're telling the truth. I don't know why she can't see that girl is curtains for you, but she is holding on so strong that Mayhem really loves her and wants her all this time. And, he tells her, I go through your phone. I know that you've been talking to him. So, girl, I'm not stupid. But anyway, later that night, she goes to find her kids, even though they're still not talking to her because of the foolishness that she did. And Kara is reading to Marcus, and she's rubbing his head. And when Zenobia walks closer into the room, she can see Mayhem on FaceTime. So she calls out to Ankara, but she completely ignores her and keep reading. So Mayhem tell her, answer your mother. Don't be disrespectful. And she says, Dad, she tried to kill you and you still want me to be cool with her? What type of shit is that? And Zenobia smacks her. And Ankara runs out the room. And for some reason, I don't get it. I don't get it. But anyway, she goes to apologize to her. And Ankara says, at this point, I wish I would have never saw my dad's picture on Miss Olena's page. Our lives have been going downhill since my dad came back into my life. I'm not sure whose fault it is. Mine, yours, his, everybody. I never meant for any of this to happen. I just wanted my dad back. I got him, but it seems like... And so Zenobia is finally taking some responsibility. And she's like, no, don't blame yourself. It was my fault. And... I'll never do what I did again, and I'm sorry that I hurt you. And Ankara tells her, I don't know what's going on with you and Santana, but maybe you could try to work with him and leave my dad alone, because that's not happening. So I really wish you would stop trying to get with him. And so they just leave the conversation like that, because for some reason the 12-year-old is smarter than the mama. So Olena once again visits a payphone to call to her sister, to send a happy birthday to their dad through her. And Olivia has to tell her that their dad had a heart attack and he's not doing too well, so she needs to come home to see him, because she feels like he's just in the hospital for a broken heart because his daughter is missing. And she tells her, I don't know where you are, but you better get here, because if I lose my dad because of you, I'm going to kill you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Like, girl, get your ass home now. So when she gets off the phone, she tells Noah, I'm going to see my dad. I don't care if I die in the process, but I want him to know I'm all right so he can be all right. And he's like, I don't give a damn what you think. You either take me to him or I'm going to hitchhike my ass right back to Chicago. So what's it going to be? So he says, okay. And, they get to the hospital and she manages to make it into his room. Nobody's in there. And she apologizes to her dad saying, I love you so much. I hope you understand why I did what I did. I never meant to hurt y'all, but I didn't want to be killed. So it seemed as if her dad thought he was dreaming at first. So when he realizes that she's actually there, his machines start to, sound off, and the nurse bursts into the room and she runs out. And when she runs out, she bumps into her sister and Trent, and they call after her and run after her, but she manages to get into Noah's car and they quickly drive away. And so they're staying in a hotel for the night before they make the drive back to Rockland. And she asks him, do you think we could stop and see the doctor while we're here? I haven't seen her in a month and it's time for my checkup, and I've only been feeling one of the twins move. So he says, I don't think that's a good idea. We can just see one of the doctors there. And they start to have this moment, but I'm just going to skim over it because I really don't care, because if it's not Olena and Mayhem, I'm not here for it. I'm just being completely honest. Yes, I'm biased. I don't care. Noah and Olena are not a thing. This part never happened. La-di-da-di-da. I don't care. Anyway, so Noah leaves out the next morning to go to work, and he plans on coming back at 12. And she falls asleep, and when she wakes up, she feels large hands around her throat. And when she opens them, she's looking into the eyes of Felton, aka Pastor Mason, BKA Noah's dad. And she tries to move his hands away from her neck, but it's no use. And he tells her, I knew it. I knew he knew where you were, and now I'm going to get rich off of you. And she has her taser up under her pillow, so, she gets it, turns it on, and rams it into his arms to let go of her neck. And she looks around in Noah's bag, and for some reason he has zip ties. So she puts Pastor Mason's arms behind his back and zip tie them, and she runs out of the hotel. And while she's running, she runs into Cam's friend Shelly that if I ever do review A Malice Love, she's more important to that series. But she sees her and she's yelling out her name. And then not even 10 minutes later, because Olena is like running in an open field, black trucks are coming towards her. So she knows that that's part of the Bailey posse. So she just gives up. And Malice jumps out of the truck and runs towards her. And she starts begging for her life. She's like, please don't kill me. I'm so sorry for killing Mayhem. I didn't mean to. I swear. And he's looking at her in confusion because, she's the only one that doesn't know that he's actually alive. So he's like, what are you talking about? And she says, please, just let me see his grave before you kill me. Just let me apologize. And Malice is like, sweetheart, sis, Mayhem is not dead. He's been looking for you. Where have you been? So she's like, what? What did you say? And when he repeats it, she faints and falls out. So Noah is on a high from last night, and he just can't wait to get back to the hotel. But when he gets there, he sees his dad, and, he rushes over to him and checks him out, and he calls the ambulance, but he's also looking for Olena. And while his dad is getting checked over, he tells him, if you hurt her. And he's like, man, what you mean if I hurt her? Do you see where I'm at? I'm the one that's in the hospital getting my damn head checked out because she knocked me the fuck out. And he's like, what happened? Don't lie to me, because when I talk to her, I'm going to ask her, and her story better match with yours or I'm going to be pissed. So, he starts off back in the day, Olena and I. And of course, this is like a punch in the gut to Noah because he's basically in love with Olena. He's like, ew, no, please no. And Pastor Noah's story is years ago, your mom and I were having problems, a lot of problems. So one day he was in Starbucks, he saw Olena sitting by herself, and it was a lust at first sight type of thing, and he didn't want to cheat. But the devil made him do it. And he just wanted to talk to someone with unbiased ears. And she listened and showed attention. And that's all he was looking for from his wife, but he wasn't getting it. So it started with a few texts here and there that turned into phone calls. And then one night she was heartbroken because her boyfriend had broken up with her. So he went over to comfort her. And after that, that led to them having sex. But he vowed to never see her again after that. And he saw her out, and the lust and the devil made him do it again. And he just keeps bringing up the devil and the fact that the devil made him do it. And it's like, sir, hypocrisy. But okay, we're not going to do it. You the pastor. You can do whatever you want, I guess. And Noah actually, does mom know about this? And how long did this little affair last? So he says it went on a little over 3 years. And then she got pregnant, and she was trying to force him to leave his wife. And when she said he said he wasn't going to do it, she threatened to tell his wife. So he had to come clean to his wife before she did. And his wife agreed that she wouldn't leave if Olena got an abortion. So he gave her the money, and that was the last time he saw her until, they popped up at his place and was so rude to her. And he says that's the reason why she left out of his place so fast. And then he got the nerve to call her she's scandalous. And Noah tells him, but you're a pastor. Don't judge me. The God I serve is a forgiving God. I have made my peace with him and my wife. That's all that matters. And it's like, ooh, we're not going to do it. I'm telling you, because I could talk about the church all night. So anyway, Noah runs out because, he's still looking for Olena, and he's hoping to find her before the Baileys do. But he's also not believing his dad's story. Like, there's too many holes in the story, and it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, but he's not completely relying on his dad to give him the true information. So he's still looking for Olena, so maybe she can fill in the holes that he feels like his dad is leaving out. So Mayhem took a trip to Arizona just to get out of Chicago because he feels like he needs a break. And he went out partying and drinking, and he got so drunk the next night that he wakes up to an unknown woman in his room, telling him that they had sex the night before. So he calls on Frank and another guy that he has by his side and tells him, please get rid of her. And also, they're going to force her to take a plan B and make sure she doesn't throw it up or spit it up. So just in case he was having unprotected sex, it's not going to result in her coming back to bite him in the ass later. And he gets a call from Malice, but, he's trying to shut off Chicago for a few days. So he tells him, if ain't nobody dead, I'll be there tomorrow. Because Malice is trying to get him to come home. Like, bro, you got to come home. But he won't tell him why over the phone. And it's like, nigga, you just could have told him over the phone, like, we found her, bring your ass home. But when Mayhem asks, is somebody dead? And he says no. So if ain't nobody dead, then I'll be there tomorrow. And he tells Frank, and Retro is the guy's name, if ain't nobody dead and it ain't about money, don't answer no calls from Chicago. So they pop up at the Casey residence, and Zenobia looks like she's seen a ghost and asks him what he's doing there. I thought that you would be happy to see me. And Santana comes up behind her and asks him, what the fuck are y'all doing at my house? And Mayhem tells him, pipe down, young man, and respect your elders before I pull off my belt and beat your ass. And he's like, I just came here to see the kids. That's it, young man. And it's like, okay, you might be 9 years older than him, but can you stop with with the young man? But anyway, when Ankara sees him, she drops her phone and runs into his arms and whispers into his ear, take me with you, please. And, Marcus sees him and he's like, Mr. Bailey, what are you doing here? You coming to pick us up? So he takes them out for the day, takes them shopping, buys them whatever they want, and then drop them back off at home and tells them, just hang on tight. I'll be coming for you guys soon. So when they get back to Chicago and he pulls up to his house, he sees like a bunch of cars in his driveway, and he like, man, what the hell is going on? And Malice leads him, to his bedroom door and opens it. And that's when he sees the love of his life laying in the bed. Her back is towards the door, but he knows it's her. So he shuts the door. So it's just her and him in the room, and like the rest of the party is still outside the door. And he doesn't know if she's still pregnant or not because he hasn't seen her in 2 months. So he's walking around hoping to see a round belly. And he does. And he's just so happy to see her. And he doesn't want to wake her up. So he sits on the floor to just watch her. And he starts thinking about the fact that she must have had some help. And she wants to know who helped her because she didn't use any of the money in her account. And when he thinks like it's a man that could be helping her, he gets upset. And it seems like the moment that his energy shifted, her stomach starts to move around or somebody's kicking in there. And she puts a hand on her stomach and says, calm down, baby. And then he also puts his hand on her stomach. And that's when her eyes, pop open. And so we go back to a day and a half ago where, she gets reunited with the family. They take her to get more clothes, to have a mani and pedi. Basically just, like I said, reunite with the family. And while she's reuniting, she talks to Taiwan. And Taiwan tells her that she almost had sex with Frank. Because they have a weird, like, flirty love/hate relationship with each other. And so she just gives the rundown of how when they were arguing that day at his place about him having the bounty on her head, and, they just bicker with each other to the point where they were play fighting, and Frank landed on top of her. And at first, Mayhem made him leave, but he came back 30 minutes later, like on his own, and that's when they almost had sex with each other. And she also goes to visit her doctor again, and the doctor says, so Noah finally told you that Mayhem was alive. And she's like, what are you talking about? Both you and Noah knew that Mayhem was alive, and neither one of you said anything? You let me be worried, sick, damn near killing myself, and you knew? And she has to explain herself, like, Noah told me not to tell you, or he would tell Mayhem that I knew all along, and Mayhem would kill me. I was afraid. And it's just like, okay, yeah, you're his girlfriend, but other people know to be scared of your boyfriend, sis. Like, I don't want to die, so yeah, I'm sorry. And she tells her, Doc, I'm not even mad at you. I'm mad at him because he knew, and he played all them games with her. So, now we're back in the present, and when she opens her eyes to see him, they're just staring at each other because it's been 2 months. And he's holding her face. They're looking at each other's eyes. And he's like, I've missed you so much. Can I kiss you, please? So they start kissing. And he told her, my life wasn't the same without you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry for hurting you time after time. I don't deserve you. I'm not worthy of you. You deserve better than me. And then he switches to, man, where you been? And don't lie to me. She's like, damn, you starting already? I haven't even seen you in 2 months, and this is what you're doing? Only because I looked everywhere for you, and you were nowhere to be found. Somebody had to be helping you. And she's like, damn, you ain't think I could do it on my own? He's like, honestly, no. Now tell me where you been and who you been with. And she refuses, because she's like, if I tell you, you're going to kill him, and I don't want you to do that. And I promise you, if you kill him, I'll never forgive you. So he's like, all right, just tell me what's going on. And I promise I won't be mad. I'll probably be frustrated, but I won't be mad. So after she runs down the whole story, everything, including Pastor Noah, Mayhem, after he left the hospital, he doesn't take the seizure pills, but he does have to smell something really strong. And if he can do that before the seizure fully comes on, he can stop the seizure from happening. So he carries around garlic with him. And, after she tells the story, he has to pop off the top and inhale the garlic because he can feel a seizure about to come on. And she doesn't know that. So she's like, are you okay? And he tells her, yeah, I had to stop myself from having a seizure, but I'm not okay because I'm frustrated that Noah lied to my face. And I'm pissed that whoever this guy is put his hands on you and raped you when you were younger. That's some sick ass shit, man. Who the fuck hangs out at the mall and preys on young girls? R. Kelly. But we ain't gonna talk about it. So Olena calls Noah to set up a meeting, at a restaurant just so they can talk. Because it's been a few days since, she's been back and reunited with Mayhem. So now she wants to talk to him. And when they're sitting down to eat, Noah just basically is starting on her already. And basically saying, I want to get your side of the story. Because he tells her, what his dad told him. And she's like, he lied to you. Ain't none of that shit happened. And there was never a pregnancy and there was never an abortion. It definitely didn't last 3 years. I was 16. And your dad was a 34-year-old man posing as an 18-year-old. So you need to be mad at him and not at me. And then she asks him, he asks her, why didn't you say anything? We lived together for 2 months and you didn't think to tell me that you had sexual relations with my father? I'm so glad you asked because I could ask you the same thing. We lived together for 2 months and you didn't think to tell me that my children's father was alive? And he tells her, that's not the same and you know it. I thought we had something special, but fuck you. So he pays and leaves out the restaurant. And after he leaves from that, because he's so angry about her basically getting back with the love of her life, but it's like, you knew she loved him. So how are you upset that as soon as she found out he was alive, she went back to him? And then he's thinking about the fact that his father is a pedophile. So he goes to the church and goes right up to the pulpit and punches his dad in the face. And he continues to attack his dad until his dad finally tells the truth. And his mom is so clueless. She's like, what's going on? What are you talking about? And the more he's beating on his dad, it's coming together for him. He's like, now, if I calculate correctly in my head, around the time you had quote unquote business troubles is when Olena said she stole the money from you. So Olena stole the money that I was supposed to use to go to school. And he tries to attack him again, and his dad says, you're taking the word of a known hoe over your dad? And he's like, yeah, you did the crime. There was never an abortion, and judging from the look on mom's face, she didn't know a thing about it. You're sick. I know there was a reason she asked me how I felt about pedophiles, and I said they should be eradicated from this earth. So still his mom is asking, what's going on? And he turns to his dad and says, there's no reason you should have been in that room if you didn't know Olena. It's like, yeah, how did you get into that hotel room? And there's no reason for you to have been there. And there's no reason for you to should have put those bruises around her neck. It's like, yeah, why are you choking her out? Even if you are trying to get some money, it don't make sense. It's like you telling on yourself. But anyway, the police show up and he's arrested for attacking his father. And his whole life is turned upside down once again. So Zenobia is back at home with Santana. They're still arguing, but they're also still together. And she's stalking their social medias, and she sees that Mayhem... They're parading like a happy couple. So they're both just posting each other on their social medias. And she realizes that she's been played once again. And so Santana asks her, I'm still trying with you, and you still, carrying a torch for this nigga. You basically stalking them on social media, and don't act like I don't be seeing you. And every one of your search bars is both of their names, right at the top. And it's like, girl, you have a sickness. And so she goes to Paris's house after they argue about this, but Paris is having her own troubles. So she don't put two and two together that Harry is cheating on her, and they get into a fight, and she tells him, you can leave and we're done. And Harry slaps her, so Zenobia done jumped out the car, and now they jumping this nigga, and that leads up to a reconciliation between the two of them where they apologize and make up, and they're still friends, and that's a little bit of peace in her life right now. So Olena is saying goodbye to Taiwan. She's getting ready to go back to Italy with her sugar daddy, who is standing at the top, basically looking at his watch, tapping on his phone, can we wrap this shit up and let's go? And Olena gets a bad vibe from him. She don't like him at all, but she can't stop Taiwan for living her life. But before she goes, Taiwan tells her, tell me as soon as you're ready to have the babies, and I'm right back on the plane, and I'm gonna be here. And so Mayhem and Olena are having a conversation, and she lets him know, I'm going back to work. I don't plan on being a housewife with no ring. And, so you're going to have to get over it. I'm not staying at home. I will be going back to work. And she also tells him, you need to talk to your mom because you haven't talked to her in almost 3 months. And he's like, man, I don't want to talk about that. I ain't talking to her till I get ready. But Olena smacks him and tells him, your mother and I had a great conversation. She told me, her life story about her having twins and what happened in her relationship, whatever. And she tells him, you are going to talk to your mom tomorrow. And he tries to get some pushback, but she's like, man, I'm not playing with you. You're going to talk to your mom, and I mean it. And so he waits a little bit later and you think you run me, huh? She's like, I do run you. I don't even know what you're talking about. So Zenobia and Santana have been trying to reconcile and make things work. So he had a performance in Phoenix where he was opening up for Yo Gotti, and she drove to see him. She gets a key to his hotel room from the front desk because she plans on surprising him. But she was the one that was actually surprised because When she walks into the bathroom, Santana is in the shower with the man Brighton and his wife. So, she's feeling like she was right all along, that he is gay. And then she also tells the woman, you did all that on social media because Branton's wife, she shared videos, shared all type of information about her husband being gay and a predator, just to end up right back with him and involving herself in threesomes. But hey, that's her business. So Noah's life, like I said, is basically falling apart. He got fired from the company by his dad, but he really doesn't care because it's just like, I beat his pedophile ass. I don't care. And his mom showed up to jail, not to bail him out, but to talk. It's like, you not gonna bail. And she tells him, God did not put it in my heart to bail you out. I just came to get some answers. And the fact is, she knew what her husband was doing, but she condoned it because Olena was the last one. So it's like, in order for her to be the last one, that means that there was others before her. So you knew this sick motherfucker was doing this to other children, and you just let it be. And I just... Anyway. So his brother, Noel, bailed him out, and he went to go get something to eat at a restaurant. And while he's there, he sees Mayhem sitting in the back with a woman. So he walks over and he realizes that the woman is Mayhem's mom. And Mayhem is looking at him like, is there something I can help you with? And he says, I just came over to let you know that I missed the taste of Olena. And it's like, really? You just trying to die. You already feel like you ain't got nothing to live for, but you just keep poking at the bear. So Mayhem is about to jump up, but, Mama Bailey holds him down to the table and tells Noah, if I let my son's hands go, you're good as dead. So you might want to get out of here. So he does leave the restaurant, but only for him to go to his parents' house to see if he can convince his dad to get some help, for his illness, as they keep calling it, and he'll consider forgiving him. So he comes in the house and he goes straight to his dad's study, and he sees that his dad is sitting in front of a bookcase with an open box in front of him with a pair of panties up to his face. And when Noah sees this, he completely blacks out. He grabs the ratchet that was sitting on the stand and hit his dad in the back of his head. And when he heard his skull crack, he knew that he was dead. So his Noah's mom runs in screaming, what did you do? What did you do? And she jumps on his back and she's trying to claw his eyes out. Noah knocks her off and cracks her upside the head with the ratchet. So a minute, maybe 30 seconds, he's killed both of his parents. And he turns to his brother and tells him, call 911. And Noel tries to talk him out of it. I'm like, I don't know if they was going to bury the parents or if he was going to tell him to run. But he's like, no, we can do something else. And he's like, no, I'm done. He was going to do it again. And I had to get rid of him. And basically, mama was collateral damage. So just call the police and I'm going to go to jail. So before Noah had came over to the table, Mayhem was reconnecting with his mom. They had started back talking to each other, and he showed her a ring telling his mom, I'm about to propose because I love her. She's my best friend and I can't see life without her and my kids. After getting my heart broken, I never thought that I would find love again. Who knew my soulmate was living under the roof for me for 3 whole years before we even made a move? Who knew I would be marrying the girl that killed me? And then, after he hears what Noah said, his mom tells him, don't go home acting a fool, talk it out. But when he gets home, because he stayed out for like an hour long because he was that upset, he's like, I need to calm down before I go in this house and say some shit I regret. But when he gets in the house, Olena is sitting at the kitchen table crying and holding her stomach. Noah called and he wanted to apologize for the things he said And, she tells him that he killed his parents. And Mayhem, like, I just saw this nigga. What you mean he killed his parents? But, he told her that he caught his dad sniffing her old panties. And she feels like this is all her fault. But she also can't calm down. And she's holding her stomach and screaming in pain. So he takes her to the hospital. And the nurse tells her, your blood pressure is really high, and I need you to calm down. You're at a critical stage in your pregnancy, and if your blood pressure doesn't come down, we could lose you or the babies. And Mayhem loses his shit. Like, why the fuck would you tell her that? You need her to calm down. Telling her if she doesn't calm down, she could die is going to make her blood pressure, like, rise even more. And, so he has to go talk to her and says, I'll do whatever I can to help Noah out of this situation. I'm going to call my lawyers. We're going to do everything we can. Just calm down. I can't be without you or my babies. I get physically sick without you. So please calm down. And he starts to kiss her, and she kisses him back. And, that's bringing her blood pressure down. And he's helped calming her down. So he also says, marry me. And she's like, what? What? Marry me. You're going to stop stressing, and we are going to get married, okay? And, they start to take her to the room, and she tells him, I'll marry you, before they wheel her away. So, his parents get there, and, they're just waiting to hear back from the doctor. So they finally come out and say that her blood pressure has been dropped, and they're going to keep her overnight, but they'll let them visit for a little while. So when they get back there, she said, surprise, motherfuckers, I'm alive. You thought you were going to propose to me, and then I come back here and die, huh? Where the rock at? And so, he pulls out the rock, and she's sitting on the side of the bed, and he gets down on one knee, and he says, Olena, I love you more than anything in this world. I never thought that you would be the one to make me want to settle down and be a better man, a better person, a better human being. I know sometimes I act irrational, but I can assure you that it's all out of love. My heart beats for you and only you, our kids. Olena, I want you to be a Bailey. Will you do me the honor of, being my wife forever? Yes. Nigga, I don't know how many times I gotta say this. Yes, I will marry you. So Zenobia thought that she was just gonna pack it up and move to Chicago once and for all without saying anything to Santana. So she's gotten an Uber, she got the suitcases ready, and she takes the Uber to the school to pick up the kids because, after she got the kids from school, they were going straight to the airport. But they aren't waiting outside like how they normally do. So she calls Ankara on her phone and says, where are you, sweetie? But Santana answers and says, she's home where you should be. So when she gets in the door, she sees that the kids are tied up in the middle of the floor and their mouths are taped shut. So she goes over to try to untie them, but then she hears a door slam behind her. And she's knocked out by Santana. And when she wakes up, her hands are tied behind her back and her feet are taped together, but her mouth is not taped. So when she starts screaming, Santana comes around the corner with a gas container in his hand, and he's smiling. And so she asks him, why are you doing this? Why am I doing this? And he starts dousing the whole house with gasoline and says, why I'm doing this. All I ever wanted to do was love you. That's all I ever wanted. I just wanted to take care of you and these kids, and we live happily ever after. And she's trying to distract him and saying, we can still do that. But he's like, no, we can't. And I don't want to explain to you anymore. So y'all just sit still and I'll be back. So he leaves out the room again. And she tells Ankara to squeeze her muscles together, and she can get loose from the rope, and she wants her to get Marcus and get out of there. So they start shaking their heads, basically saying no. And she's like, now is not the time to argue with me. I would much rather both of you live than us all die together. And she's encouraging Ankara because, she's crying, and she's like, you can do it. You're so strong. I love the both of you so much. And whatever happens today, I just want you to know that I love you from the bottom of my heart. So he comes from the back like, what y'all talking about up here? And she asks him, if they can have sex one last time. And, he pulls her into the room, and she asks him, can you close the door? I don't want my kids to see us having sex. But he basically does it right with the door open, with Zenobia staring into her son's eyes. And that was so hard to read. Like, when I first read it, because it's like, can you imagine? Because it's not rape, but it feels like it is rape. And it's like, you have to look into your son's eyes while you are tied up and this man having sex with you. But anyway, Ankara gets free, and she gets Marcus free, and she comes to the door with a knife. Zenobia thought they were just going to run out, and, she was going to sacrifice herself. But no, Ankara comes to the door with a knife, and she goes over to Santana while he's on top of Zenobia and rams the knife into his back as hard as she can. So, he raises up and he punches Ankara, knocking her out. And he's like, I knew I couldn't trust you. So he goes to pull the lighter out of his pocket, but Zenobia kicks him in the chest and makes him fall off the bed onto his back and drives the knife even further into him. And he drops the lighter in the process. And, while she's she got up, and although her arms were tied behind her back, that little move that people can do where they basically like contort their bodies to get their hands to the front of them? That's what she does. And she goes over to pick up Ankara, and he's still, somehow, Santana is still alive, and he gets the lighter, and he drops it, and the bed goes up into flames, and he's still trying to crawl over to them. But Zenobia manages to get Ankara and make her way out of the door, moving as quickly as she can. But, her the bed had gasoline on it, and with her laying on the bed, her shirt was soaked. So her back is literally on fire, and Ankara's feet, catch on fire a little bit too. But they managed to make it out the door because Marcus was already outside. He left, but Ankara came back. She wasn't just going to leave her mom. And when she saw that the kids were okay, she falls out on the grass, and, like they put the fire out on her back, and she passes out. So it's been a few days since Mayhem left for Arizona, to check on the kids, and Zenobia's body was 75% burnt, and they're not looking for her to last too much longer. Oh, excuse me. So, he makes it back home, and Mayhem makes it back home, and he's checking on her, and you can just tell he's tired. He's run down, having to deal with so much. But where are we? Oh, because he tells her, Ankara is going to need therapy behind this, which I can imagine. It's like, not only were you kidnapped, but then you had to see your mom be taken advantage of. You killed somebody, and you were set on fire. It's just like, whew, at 12? Jesus. But anyway, Mayhem had to go out to the car for something, and while he's outside, she gets a direct message from a stripper from Arizona, and it's a video of Mayhem having sex with a woman, and the video's caption, "Is this your king?" So she goes to the girl's page and sees that she's a stripper who lives in Arizona, and she takes off her ring and put it on the table. And she's crying when Mayhem gets back in the house, And she's like, I thought you were going to Arizona to check on these damn kids. You was out there cheating on me. And he's like, no, that's not from this time. That was from the first time. And I didn't know if you were alive or dead. And, basically get over it is what he's saying. And he's like, I didn't say nothing when you fucked Noah while you was pregnant with my kids. And she's like, we didn't have sex. All he did was go down on me. That is not the same thing. So he tells her, look, I'm pissed that you were with him, but you don't see me trying to leave you. So you can be pissed that I had sex with her, but you ain't leaving me. So you can take your ass in the other room and be mad, but that's literally all you gonna do. And, he tells her, I'm sorry, I was fucked up. And I know that's not an excuse, but know that I'm never going to get that drunk again where I can't think straight and make my own decisions. So she nods and goes to the bathroom. And she's looking in the mirror and she realizes that Mayhem is right. She couldn't be mad at him because had her dad not had a heart attack, she probably wouldn't have seen him until she gave birth. So it's just like, basically he gets a pass. And she realizes she has a good man who made a mistake when he was drunk and she wasn't here. So she's just going to go out and pretend, she just needs to make sure the girl isn't going to pretend that she's pregnant. And, he had told her that he had a test for Charisma's son and he wasn't his. So it's just like, we're done with all this other BS. We just going to focus on us. And she gets on the phone with Taiwan. But while she's on the phone with Taiwan, her water breaks. So Mayhem is trying to get the stuff ready for the hospital. She's like, baby, we ain't making it to no hospital. These babies are coming right here and right now. And he starts to panic, but he pulls out his two phones. And in one phone, he calls 911. The other one, he calls his mom. And Taiwan is still on FaceTime on Olena's phone. So she's basically walking her through the process because Mayhem he's lost it. So it's just like, he ain't no help. But anyway, they make it where Mayhem and Olena, they deliver the babies right at home. And the other twin was hiding like throughout the whole book. So they didn't know if it was going to be another girl or a boy. But it turns out they have two baby girls. One name is Pryor the second, so Mayhem's Jr. And then the other one's name is Preston because that was going to be Mayhem's twin sister name. So she gave the baby that name. And, life is just good. And she says, if you had told me 10 years ago or even a year ago that I would be laid up in the hospital with twins with the man I had a crush on since I was 16, I would have told you were crazy. And she looks at Mayhem and she tells him, thank you for loving me. And he says, no, thank you for loving me and blessing me with the two cutest kids I've ever saw. So it's a year later and Zenobia never woke up from her coma and her mom was too sick to travel to Arizona to pull the plug. So Ankara had to pull the plug on her mom. And it's just like, damn. Ankara got it hard, man. And Marcus is currently in the care of Santana's family, and Ankara is in foster care. And so they have two custody battles going on because he's trying to get custody of Ankara, but her real dad was fighting it. And I think I missed it because I'm like, when did we ever establish that the real dad was in the picture? Because Ankara was supposed to be from a one-night stand that she had no idea, like who the dad was, like if he even stayed in it. I was going to say Atlanta, Lord, in Chicago at all. She never knew who the dad was. So this took me by surprise. And Marcus is texting them every day, like saying he wants to come live with them, but they can't even have visitation because Santana's family isn't allowing it. And Noah took a plea deal and got 6 years in jail for 2 counts of voluntary manslaughter, and he'll be eligible for parole in 3 years. She promised to write him like as much as she could, but Mayhem said no, you're not. So we're not even doing this. And so she also had a baby boy, and she's standing at the refrigerator holding the baby when Frank comes in and says, give me my nephew. And there's a picture that they took in Arizona where Ankara and Marcus are holding each one of the twin babies. And when Mayhem walks in, he's like, I'm having deja vu. So let's go back to the beginning where he had those flashes of looking into his past and into his future. And this is the scene that he saw. But when it got blurry and he didn't know who the man was that was standing there, it was actually Frank. Holding his son. But anyway, I forgot, what's the baby's name? Oh, the baby boy's name is Pierre. So we have Pryor the second, Preston, and Pierre. And Mayhem delivered this baby as well. And she feels like he ignored her contractions all day just so he could deliver the baby at home. And everyone keeps asking them when the wedding is, but they actually secretly got married, but they're not telling anybody, although Mayhem is sporting a gold diamond wedding band, but no one is paying attention to it or asking them questions about it. And they still do a little dom sub play from time to time, but with 3 kids, they really don't have a lot of time to do it. And they are living happily ever after. Okay, so that wraps up this 3-part series by the lovely Bianca. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I will see you back tomorrow for whichever book that I choose, because I really don't have one picked out yet. Peace and blessings, my beautiful people.